All right, today we're tackling a big one, the human enigma. We're going to look at how two totally different fields, philosophy and psychology, have tried to figure us out.
At the core of it all, it boils down to one simple, massive question. Why do we do the things we do? Why are we like this? It's a puzzle that people have been obsessed with for, well, forever.
And to try and crack that puzzle, humanity's come up with two very different toolkits. In one corner, you've got the ancient heavyweight, philosophy, and in the other, this scrappy newcomer, the science of psychology. So what's the real difference between them? Well, think of philosophy as the art of pure reason. It's all about figuring things out just by thinking, using logic. Philosophers call this a priori knowledge. Psychology, that's a whole different game. It's a science, right? So it's all about evidence, what we can observe, experiment with, and measure. That's called a posteriori knowledge. So to put it super simply, philosophy asks what makes logical sense, while psychology goes out and tests what's actually happening out there. Okay, so let's put these two toolkits to the test on one of the biggest questions imaginable. What even is the self?
I mean, seriously, think about it. If you strip away all your memories, your feelings, your habits, what's left? Is there some essential core you under all that stuff? An unchanging self that's been there the whole time?
Well, the philosopher David Hume had a pretty wild answer to that. He said that when he tried to look inside himself for this core self, he couldn't find it. There was nothing there, just a constant parade of thoughts, feelings, and perceptions passing through.
And this led to his famous bundle theory. The idea is that you aren't some solid, permanent thing. You're more like a bundle of experiences, a flickering movie made up of individual frames. There's no single thing holding it all together, just the ever-changing collection itself. I mean, that's a huge challenge to how we normally think about ourselves, right?
Okay, so while philosophy was busy looking inward, a whole school of psychology called behaviorism came along and basically said, who cares about all that internal stuff? They took a totally different route. For them, this whole debate was pointless. The self? It's not some mystery hiding inside your head. It's just the sum of what you do, the behaviors we can actually see and measure. Simple as that.
Okay, so this kind of naturally leads us from what we are to who we are. Let's dive into another classic debate. Are people deep down actually good?
I mean, this has been a philosophical battleground for centuries. At our core, are we wired for kindness and cooperation, or are we just naturally selfish and competitive? On one side, you have the philosopher Mencius. He was convinced we're born good. He said our compassion is totally instinctual. His classic example? Imagine you see a little kid about to fall into a well. He argued that anyone, without even thinking, would feel this jolt of panic and concern, not because they want a reward, but just because it's our natural human reaction. But then, you've got Thomas Hobbes, who came in with a completely opposite and much darker view. For Hobbes, our natural state is basically chaos, a war of all against all. He believed we're driven by competition and fear. Without a powerful government to keep us in line, he famously wrote that life would be solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Yikes!
So, whether you think we're innately good or bad, there's one thing pretty much all of us are chasing: happiness. But what does that word even mean, really?
Is it just about feeling good? Is it about success? Or is it something deeper, like inner peace? This question, as you can imagine, is central to both philosophy and modern psychology.
Way back when, the Greek philosopher Plato had this really cool take on it. He imagined the soul had three parts. You've got reason, which is your truth-seeking part, then there's spirit, which is all about honor and winning, and finally appetite. That's the part that wants food, drink, you know the deal. Now, for Plato, happiness wasn't just letting all three parts run wild. Nope, true happiness was psychic harmony, getting your rational side to be the charioteer, guiding the other two. It's all about balance, with reason in charge. That idea of internal balance is really powerful, right? But modern psychology has kind of taken that idea and added another layer to it: purpose.
And that brings us to this wonderful Japanese concept called ikigai. This isn't just about what makes you feel happy in the moment. It translates to your reason for being. It's that deep, intuitive sense of purpose you get when what you do every day lines up perfectly with what you truly value. It's finding your why.
So you see, the questions haven't really changed, but how we try to answer them definitely has. And it's really important to see this not as one field replacing the other, but as a conversation that's been going on for centuries.
You have to remember, psychology was born from philosophy. The whole journey started with guys like Plato and Aristotle, wondering about the soul. Then it moved on through thinkers like Avicenna, who had this idea of the mind as a blank slate, and Descartes, with his famous mind-body split. All of this deep thought, this long philosophical chat, is what set the stage for pioneers like William James to come along in the 19th century and say, okay, let's turn this into a science. But here's the key thing. Psychology didn't just fly the nest and make philosophy useless. Not at all. What happened was, it started a whole new kind of dialogue. Suddenly, you had philosophical questions that could be informed by actual data, and you had scientific results that could be questioned and examined with philosophical logic.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's that two lenses are way better than one. Philosophy is amazing at asking the big why questions. It makes us stop and think about our deepest assumptions. Psychology comes in with the how. It gives us the data, the evidence, a way to test those assumptions against the real world. You really need both. Together, they give us a much richer, clearer picture of who we are.
And that leaves us with one last thing to chew on. As science gets better and better at mapping every little circuit in our brains, what questions are going to be left? Will we one day have a complete scientific explanation for everything, even consciousness itself? Or will those big why questions, the things philosophy has always chased, always be just a little bit out of reach, waiting for us to think about them?